Looking at some more bands coming out from TNC here, but what do you think? Are there going to be any more respect bands, or are there just going to be more of those just pocket heroes
TNC
bands that they're going to be going
Predators
for now?
turn to pick.
Oh, like
Well,
Jet.
they take out the Enchantress, so it's looking like they want to just kind of help out their lanes, not have to deal with all the sustain coming through. They don't have the option for the Viper themselves as they band it out, so they don't have their own break to deal with that untouchable on the Ench, and it's just really disruptive in the right
10
hands. We saw them
seconds
again.
remaining.
They kept trying to commit onto Afu's Ench and just never lined up.
5
So they don't have
seconds
to worry
remaining.
about that. Here, I think what we need to see is something to combine with Phoenix or to kind of play around with that Dragon Tail stun DK. You don't really have the natural combos on hand. If this is an offlane DK, you need some sort of controlled spell out for your Phoenix Egg to really go off without a hitch. TNC do take that Grimstroke, so there's some potential here. Blink forward with the Inkswell on the DK, plus the Dragon Tail stun is one nice way to start these fights. You've got the Soulbind plus Dragon Tail for doubled stuns on hand, and you can kind of play aggressively here for TNC, but I like what SMG is doing. They've got the Tusk on hand with a line that's a lot of control in lane, that's a lot of aggression on lane, especially once they hit their level 6. They can play around with Finger and Walrus Punch quite nicely here.
Yeah, okay, so now we see this puck being picked up. And Mark, I've got to ask, is the puck a pretty big priority? Because we saw him get banned in the last 2 games.
10 seconds remaining.
I mean, it's an RML puck, right? Like, this is one of the man's specialties. In fact, I'd
Right.
have to say it's
Seconds remaining.
arguably one of his best heroes, right? Probably top 3 for RML, and he is very, very impactful in this hero. And the puck, it never really feels like it's out of meta. I feel like this hero can always kind of pop back in, and it still feels very strong going into this matchup up against SMG. RML, he may have felt like on the DK he couldn't really do RML things last game around, so maybe just wanting something that can be a bit more mobile, can just pump out a bit more damage and be much more annoying.
5 seconds.
So I do love the fact that TNC are kind of bringing out that specialty for RML. He's obviously a very kind of top tier player, and you want him to just kind of be performing at his best. And the DK, it's a nice hero, but you don't want to limit him if you can avoid it. So I think the puck is a much better option. And of course, with the DK, we know TNC can also run the safe lane DK as well as the off lane DK if they so wish. So it's still a bit of a flex pick here for TNC as to where they're throwing that Dragon Knight. I'm not 100% sure where they're going to throw it yet, but I kind of guess it should be in the off lane.
TNC Predators
So
turn
the
to
puck is,
bat.
almost, we could potentially see him turn into a little bit of a Moon on Riki, but Armel on puck and just absolutely go off. Does that mean a lot of their draft is going to be centered around giving this space to the puck and making sure that he's getting extremely enabled?
Yeah,
I
I think
wouldn't
they're
say
going to look to set up the puck. Like, they might want a quick blink. This is their only
5
setup as
seconds
well for the egg. So once you hit level 6 in the Phoenix, you might look for the Dream Coil egg combo on hand. But the puck's not really a farm heavy hero, so you don't necessarily need to commit all those resources to the puck. It's down to the laning matchup here for RML, as long as you can build up and hit those early spikes, hit that early travels and blink, and start causing chaos. Once you're at that point, you can kind of focus on your pos 1 and buy him space out.
So then, Mike, with this Leshrac pick going on to SMG, what would you be expecting to be coming out as their last pick?
TNC
hard to tell. I
Predators
mean,
turn
are they going to... Oh, there you go. They go for the Bloodseeker, so it looks like an off-lane Bloodseeker for KP. Mid Leshrac, I guess they could switch it up, but KP was playing a lot of Bloodseeker in the previous patch, and it is still
Okay.
quite viable as well. When you're into Phoenix, you've got the puck against you, you've got the DK.
10 seconds
I think it's
remaining.
a pretty nice pick for the side of SMG.
5 seconds
Yeah,
remaining.
it looks great. They've got plenty of team fight, plenty of damage. They're not really lacking much on the side of SMG. So I think they've come out with quite a strong draft going into this game number 3. And well, for TNC, I'm not 100% sure where they're going to go with this last pick, but my guess is they are still looking for a solid kind of position 1 that can go up against that Doosa. Just wondering what we're looking at here for these guys.
Do you think
Yeah,
maybe
it's a bit tough.
Yeah, do you think it's maybe a case of something that's going to give them a little bit more damage to be able to burst a bit more, John?
Yeah, I think damage would be an issue up against Medusa here. Again, you don't have natural mana burn to deal with the shield down the line. There's a lot of push coming out from SMG as well. The Terrorblade is one way to do that. It's a hell lot of damage. But SMG has a lot of magic damage on hand to deal with a Terrorblade. They've got Lesh, they've got Bloodseeker, the silence is going to be annoying, they've got Lion Finger, they've got ways of melting those illusions from the Terrorblade. I think SMG has a lot of good answers here to deal with what TNC has. For TNC, there's some synergy here, especially once you get the Terrorize on the Terrorblade. You can combine that with a Dream Coil to get a natural break on the leash and get a good stun out along with the egg running in the background. And that could be one way to kind of manage that early on, but there's some specific timings with Terrorblade you have to play with. You have to always be aware of your metamorphosis, and that does mean that SMG has more uptime with Medusa. Like, you don't necessarily need the Stone Gaze, but even then it's not that long of a cooldown in the late game. So SMG probably have a smoother ride to hit their own win conditions, especially with the push coming out from the Lush. It's just a lot faster than, say, the DK on hand once Diabolic Edict is maxed out.
Well, I'll let you both jump into this game, but I'm looking forward to who's going to end up taking it to the 2-1.
We'll get into it, of course. Game number 3, Team SMG versus TNC Predator. John, I kind of wonder, I like to ask you this, but who did come out with the better draft before we do get into the game?
I'm actually going to stick with SMG here. I think they've really enabled this Medusa pick with their early bans. No Nyx, no worry about mana burn. There's no real room for an Invoker to come out with EMP. There's no PL on hand to swarm her with illusions, with Diffusal burn. So it's really protected as a first phase pick. They've got this Leshrac on mid to help them push towers. They've got so much magic damage to deal with a Terrorblade that I'm really worried for Gabby here. I just realized Gabby's chosen emblem on his name for the team supporter pack is actually SMG. So it kind of looks awkward when you look at him. But yeah, it's a bit awkward for Gabby. It's a very hard game for a Terrorblade. Like, there's still opportunities. We've seen Terrorblade beat Medusas before, but it's much more tight. The timings he has to play around is a lot tighter. They have to maximize Metamorphosis down the line a lot better. And SMG has just much more leeway to play this game as they want here.
You gotta love the mutual respect between Gabby and KP. Obviously, Gabby having a very tough time because of KP last game around. It just felt like every Chrono that was thrown out, you'd see the Tornado being thrown out by KP just to kind of ruin it. And well, there you go. They're just having a bit of back and forth between the two. Obviously, good friends as KP now getting disconnected. There you go. That's what you get for talking trash against Gabby. He gives the call over to the telco, tells him to disconnect the internet. Give KP a bit of a warning before he gets back into the game. John, on top of that, though, on top of the fact that SMG might have the better draft, what about TNC's DK persona? They've got Davion.
Yeah, it's looking good, right? Like last time around, we saw TNC with a Spectre. They had the Arcana. Maybe the key thing is to have these new cosmetics on hand. That gives TNC the motivation they need to win these games. This could be the turning point. I don't know. Like, the one thing with the DK persona, though, the helmet kind of makes it hard to read. I prefer him without the helmet, so there is that. But look at SMG. They're smoked up. They did this before, and if they get a good wraparound here, they've got a lot of stuns, a lot of damage on hand.
Yeah, I really like this move, but this time around, Tims, he's going to be around to make sure he breaks the smoke. They'll spot him out and get a nice shards out, and with the Earth Spike, they might have enough control to get another stun out from Moon, and with that, they'll give the first blood over to the Leshrac. It's another great start side of SMG. In fact, giving that first blood gold to Moon, it's going to ensure a very quick bottle for him and make life very, very hard for Armel on the puck.
It can be pretty awkward for Armel. Like, the puck versus Leshrac matchup can go either way. You have stable wave clear on both sides, but you have to be cautious about overstepping your bounds to puck here. If an Earth split Earth does land, the follow-up damage can be pretty annoying, and of course you have to always control your lane. Once a creep wave shoves in just a bit for Moon, he can look to play with the Edict once that's up and just constantly apply chip damage, and you might find yourself losing your mid-tier 1 earlier than you want to.
Of course, we're having a look up at the top lane where KP gets a nice double silence off. Gabby already popping the Metamorphosis, and Boomy trying to be rather aggressive with the Fire Spirits, but looks like KP is going to be just fine to secure some CS for himself. Because KP going to have to be a little bit cautious every time that meta's off cooldown, but once it does wear off, I think KP should have a pretty darn good time with the Bloodseeker. Just being able to spam out the Blood Right going to be very annoying for Gabby on that TV.
Yeah, it's just not going to feel good once you're stuck in that melee form for Gabby. I think the one saving grace here for TNC is that it's a dual melee lane. So Boomy has a little bit more impact to play around with his range advantage, to play with the Fire Spirits once he gets some levels up. At the same time, Afu, he went for level 1 Ice Shard. You can just try to keep spamming that out, get hits on Gabby. And with the Thirst up, you know, Gabby, he doesn't have much HP, really relies on that armor to tank up, and once you're low, a Bloodseeker just becomes a lot more potent in the lane, so you have to balance your HP here quite a fair bit for TNC's end.
We'll have a look at the bot lane as well. Rogi, Tim's kind of going at it. Rogi does avoid the stroke of fate just fine. Of course, you've got Bok there on the DK, and you've got mid one once again on that carry Medusa. Last game around, they weren't able to shut down mid one at all on that Medusa. I wonder if this time they've got what it takes with this new draft from TNC to deal with mid one, but it seems like they're not going to be able to really give him the space that he had last time. If they do, if we see a repeat performance from mid one, it is still a Medusa, and it's kind of like you said with the TB. It's not going to be that simple of a task to try and get through this Medusa. See what TNC does to try and shut him down this time.
I'm looking at Bok's build-up. He did go for Dragon Tail and 2 points in Dragon Blood, so there's no real Breed Fire to prevent mid one from applying his harassment with his right clicks, clearing out the creep wave. He's playing really nicely with the Mystic Snake. This does allow you more aggression with Dragon Tail plus Inkswell, but you're not really seeing it, although Tim's chasing Raji.
And he is, Rogi being caught out. Nice Earth Spike though, and mid one going to be around to help out as Rogi does go for a nice salve up, and Tim's is trapped between the creep wave and the trees and does end up going down. Very nice set up there from Rogi, and it costs him a salve, but in the end, who the hell cares? He's going to be just fine.
That's a nice pickup. It does get split up, so you're not too upset for TNC, but this lane's just going really well on bot. In fact, all the lanes for SMG feel like they're off to a really good start so far. Just managed to keep all these heroes in check. Gabby's not having the freest farm as well. And barely above the Dusa, which is decent, but KP's already getting enough space to just hold that lane solo. Gabby, you know, when Metamorphosis is up, he can look to play aggressive, but not really looking to set up just yet. And every single time Blood Right lands, again, you're a low HP hero, high armor. Magic damage just makes it so annoying to hold that lane for Gabby.
On the brighter side, at least Armel's having a pretty good time in that mid lane of the park. Currently top CS on the board. I must say, Moon, not really that far behind either. He's just 4 CS behind at the moment, and with this wave, he should be able to easily keep up with that puck. There's going to be a lot on the shoulders of Armel this game, right? Like, you are really requiring him to just make those rotations and set up these kills for TNC. This draft of SMG and the way the lanes have gone, it could be a very tough time if Armel can't set up these kills.
He needs to be active on that puck, especially once he hits his level 6, level 7 with the Dream Coil up. You're going to have to look for a nice pick-off in the side lanes. You do run the risk of giving your mid out, so you maybe want to play more passively instead. Just protect that mid, keep the lane at equilibrium to prevent a shove from the Lesh, but that just kind of runs the risk of letting these side lanes just fester for longer and just kind of give SMG too much to play with. So there's a lot of choices Armel's going to have to make. At the least, he's slightly ahead of that Lesh rep right now. 34-5 up against 26-1. So you've got that early farm advantage on hand, and that does mean that Moon's not going to look for that early push opportunity just yet.
Bottom lane, Spike is out. A Bok. That DK, and now with the shards and the tag team, it might just be enough to get through Bok's HP pool as the snowball. It's going to be there to follow up, but he's a very tanky DK, and we'll be able to back off as now Armel make the rotation in. He only got one with the Dream Coil, but it will give him a kill. And immediately he's back off to the mid lane.
That's exactly what we needed to see from Armel. He takes that good opportunity for the rotation. He's going to get a rune up at the 6-minute mark, so he's going to be topped up. The creep wave was shoved out far enough that Moon couldn't really do much with the Edict there. So the power is still standing at a fairly good amount of HP, and he gets that impact he wants early. It's not the biggest kill, but it does provide some relief on those side lanes, which TNC really needed. It's like it's just lining up all too nicely for SMG, and it at least makes mid one think twice about overextending in the lane, but you're still not quite stopping the Deucer from farming there.
or not. Moon now. He's strewn up on the left track, gonna make the rotation towards the top lane. That level 3 Diabolic Edict, but rather than trying to make something happen with that top tier 1 tower, he'll take the stacks away, just to ensure Gabby doesn't have a chance to them himself. Umi, he does watch all this, but it won't matter because he can't do anything about it.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Immediately Moon is gonna go back towards that top lane as Arfu, he'll take over the mid lane in his stead. Again, we're seeing this kind of greedier playstyle from SMG, but it does kind of just pay off for them. They are still securing the farm they want.
Has been killed.
Now top lane, Umi, he chased down by KP, does get spotted.
Radiant's middle tower
KP not at that level 6 mark yet, so can't quite get the rupture off, but will force the Icarus dive away. That's going to allow Moon with the Diabolic Edict to get to work with that top tier 1.
Radiant's middle tower
We'll still have
is
Tims
under
and
attack.
Gabby around along with Boomy to try and defend this, and it looks like their presence may be enough. Now Moon, he's going to TP down to the bot lane. Lock. He's the only one there on the DK. They might just need +1 to lock him down. Unless Moon can land the split earth, but won't be able to get it this time. Instead, Roger, he'll come in from the side. DP's cancelled off early, so he's already missing one hero on the side of TNC, and now they're going to lose Bok. Armel, he does show up, but it is too late. They will get to work into that bottom tier 1 with the Diabolic Edict. There's not really much Armel can do about it.
Dire's
But he does get a very nice denial.
And this is the momentum we were talking about from SMG. They've got such good push coming out with Lush, especially in comparison to the DK, that once you start losing these towers, TNC's map shrinks a lot more, and it expands for SMG. You get more space for mid one to feel safe, you get more flash farm for the Dusa to hit those item spikes, and TNC's just in a really awkward position right now.
Snowball does connect, but Arthur now wants to back off as Gabby. He's on the high ground with the meta, just ready to go. Mel will take another nice kill on the puck. Second kill of the game for him on this puck. And it's still going relatively smoothly for both sides. Gabby just barely ahead of mid 1 on the Medusa. It is still about the mid lane matchup, right? It's still about Moon and Armel being able to set the pace for their team. It looks like Arfu and Moon will go for a smoke up. Question is, where are they headed? They might go for Gabby, but they're going to head towards that top lane where KP does cancel off his TP and now goes for a rupture. Gabby going to be stuck there. He'll try to get out of vision. Arthur, Snowball not going to be there in time. We'll just roll the other ways. They'll go after Tims instead. Bloodright not actually going to get the vision as Tims. He just ran straight south and they haven't found him. Tims is somehow out of there. They're still having a look around.
Radiant's bottom tower has fallen.
Courier not gonna spot him either. Tims, he will survive. That top tier 1 tower probably not gonna be so lucky.
SMG, they really wanted that kill. Gabby's still kind of given a lot of space here, all things considered, but they'll be able to find that top tier 1. Still, Armel's here.
Coil out Armel, he's got a massive target there as Bok. Gonna try and help out with the Dragon Tail, and that should be enough to lock him down and get the damage out. SMG, they thought about jumping in, but there's not really much they could have done. That is a huge pickoff now for the side of TNC, and should kind of create a bit more space for them to be able to just secure that farm onto Gabby and Armel.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
They're doing a good job of just protecting the TV. They're not looking to play aggressively themselves onto the Dusa, so you're kind of trading farm. And we're seeing mid one slowly catch up. Like, the last hits are racking up. The triangle is fairly protected. There is a ward here from TNC to watch. They're not really able to do as much with that information. So I think overall you're still kind of happy on SMG's end. And it still kind of boils down to what you were saying. The mid-core matchup. Moon still needs to find some towers to melt with the Edict. Mid-tier 1 still standing. Top tier 1 still standing. In that sense, it's feeling pretty good for TNC. They even out the bot lane push down the line. So relatively even in map control, and if that serves to benefit TNC a little bit more, considering that SMG are the one with a bit more of a push advantage with the strat.
Up shot, top lane, they've got Bok. They're very kind of tanky here to go after. And, they're not gonna pursue it. Bok's just gonna stand there. It'll be alright. They are still bringing heroes up here from SMG to try and set up for that push, but with the Grimstroke around on Tims, it's proving to be a real challenge for the side of SMG. Bok doesn't even have the breathe fire up, but he just doesn't need it. Just stands there hitting creeps. He's fine.
It's a lot more of a passive build, so he can't be as aggressive, but that doesn't matter when it means that SMG's own moves are not really panning out. TNC, knowing Rupture is down, they've got a bit of a spell advantage there, and they're going to look for a smoke play here.
Yeah, Armel going to move on to the high ground. They'd love to find mid one, and that's exactly who they do get as the Inkswell does come in with the Silence and with no mana shield. He will get blown up. Great setup there from the side of TNT, and you look at Gabby. He'll join in that mid lane, and they'll get started on that mid tier 1 tower push now with the Metamorphosis. Immediately the side of SMG, they need to try and get something done about this. You don't want that mid tier 1 tower to drop with the Medusa on your side. Blood Right will be enough with the Lightning Storm spam. TNC, they get the rotations they wanted. They won't overextend. Just back off and continue their farm up.
I think this is pretty darn good for TNC. They killed Medusa, the one target we've been talking about that's an AFK farming. They make good use of that ward they planted earlier on, and they're pretty much protecting Gabby. It's just sort of allowed to free farm, still above the Medusa, which is not where you want to be as the Medusa, although in terms of net worth, it's rather even in that end. And Gabby's going to hit this spike once the SNY's up, so they just need to hold steady here for TNC's part. They could wait for the next Dream Coil. It's going to be up in 15, and they can look to play with Dream Coil Egg. Still haven't seen the combo kick off, but you get these heroes from SMG in a really tight spot. It could be a bit awkward for them to try to counterfight that. Maybe they could kind of turn it around if they're Leshraks in good position, but Moon only really has a Hood of Defiance to protect. No Yule's up, doesn't look like he's rushing it as well. So all of that damage flying through could be a bit of an issue for Moon down the line if he's caught off guard.
It certainly could. He's top of the net worth board here, Moon, so still having a great old time on the Leshrak. He said he's got the Sanj on the way very, very soon as... Seems like SMG, they're more than comfortable to play the farm game here with TNC. No real pressure being applied, although I say that top lane, they're going to find Arfu. TNC, they'll get another kill for themselves onto Armel. He is fourth of the game, but mid one, he's going to show up to make sure this top tier 1 stays defended. Was even with the Medusa this early on, just being able to spam Mystic Snake is going to be enough to force the side of TNC back. As TNC could keep just kind of making SMG run across the map defending towers, but SMG, they seem more than happy about it. They're just fine with this.
Yeah, in the end, I mean, it's still space out for the Medusa. They're not quite really trading objectives on either side. And again, it's a bit of a equal state for both teams now, where it's not swinging out too much. Map control's relatively the same. Both cores are farming up at a steady pace. The one thing that does line up to, though, is that I feel like a Terrorblade with equal amounts of farm with Medusa, at least at this point in the game, is going to have a bit more impact. It's just down to the fact that Metamorphosis is a lot stronger earlier on. The damage boost is huge. Medusa needs so many more items to really hit that stride. And I think as long as TNC understands that, the pressures would have to be good, although their smoke broke.
Well, KP's in trouble though. He'll die to Armel. He'll get the Rupture Rapper. It won't matter. And meanwhile, on the other side of the map, they have started up a team fight. As Spock is being focused down and eventually may go down. We'll be able to get him. Be trying to make a chase up to that high ground of the triangle, but it won't work out in their favor. The brighter side, though, considering they found KP at the bot lane, it's just a position 3 for a position 3 trade. And it doesn't seem like either team minds playing the farming game. These even trades seem to favor both teams in their own minds.
Yeah, I don't blame them for thinking that way. They've gotten massive heroes to keep farming up on. I think that trade ends up a bit better for TNC because Armel basically gets that solo. SMG had to share the load around, share the XP.
This is one you don't want to lose though, John. Mid one is being caught out. A nice Earth Spike and a Manta touch on the Inkswell. Very, very nice. Mid one, back into the triangle. He has no mana, but he'll be alright. They won't be able to chase him there. Instead, TNC have to get started onto that mid tier 1 tower again. This time SMG, they may not really be around to defend this one, as it'll be a little bit too challenging with Armel and Bok around, and it looks like they are going to just let this one go down.
Radiant's middle tower has fallen.
It's It's a tier 1 top for a tier 1 mid, favoring TNC just a bit more. That does give SMG a nice lane to threaten every single time. They plant a deep ward here on SMG's end in that top jungle area as well to keep track of where the Terrorblade's farming. But Armel,
My goodness,
Radiant's middle
Armel
tower is under attack.
completely blowing up Rogi. A Witch's Blade just makes it so hard to get away as the line, and now top side, Boomy. Rupture around, the Icarus dive might be enough, but the Blood Rider is coming and he will have to commit the egg. He'll survive, but it will cost him that long cooldown. No egg for another 2 minutes here for Boomy. Suppose on the brighter side, they won't give the kill away to KP.
yeah, I think you're perfectly fine with that, honestly. Like, we haven't really seen big eggs, big engagements out from TNC. As you mentioned, they've just been a lot more keen on farming, maybe a couple of pickoffs here and there, but no giant team fight where you can really leverage the egg. And in that sense, just saving yourself isn't too bad of a use if you're not expecting to fight anyway. And still seeing the net for it even, kill board 4-7, a bit of a slower game here, as much slower than we're used to seeing from Southeast Asia, but relatively even. I think both teams, it's one of those games where it's like a spring that's really wound up. The moment it pops, either side could just have a massive lead on hand. So we're just waiting for that big moment. For the most part, we're seeing some conditions come out. SNY up on our Terrorblade means that stack resistance is going to feel a lot better, more strength on hand to be durable up front, but our Medusa's inching closer and closer towards the Ags. Right, mid one has the Manta, is about 2k away, 2.1k away from the full Aghanims up, and that's when the Medusa feels extremely obnoxious. No BKBs in sight for TNC just yet. Gabby is going to be rushing one next, but if that Ags comes out before the BKB does, it's going to be a bit troublesome there for the TV once that stone form comes out.
Absolutely. Mid one getting to work. Pick up that Aghanim Scepter. They do also have a Grove Bow on the side of SMG. I believe it was dropped if they want to try and use it, but for now he'll just ignore that. Aghanim Scepter should be more than enough as top lane. KB gonna get caught out with the Dragon Tail, and with the Inkswap follow-up, it'll be more than enough. Gonna take him down, and Gabby just a couple gold ahead of mid one, but they are kind of just going back and forth on top of that net worth board. A very, very close game 3, and of course for either side, you don't really want to have to get knocked to the lower bracket in the first round of the playoffs, but that's unfortunately how it's going to be, is now they found Arfu on the Tusk. Another kill off the back of Armel's puck. See, they'll continue to be the more aggressive team, at least for now. They head towards the the top tier 1 tower. I suppose the Roshan is going to be open for them as well if they so wish. They do have the meta up.
They can look for that quick rush if they want. What I'm more surprised by is SMG's movements. Like, they were shoving in the bot lane. They haven't taken that mid tier 1, which is something we've been talking about a long time, especially with Leshrac for Moon. They haven't found that big objective, and it's just allowed much of that dire side of the map for TNC just stay uncontested. Stable farm for the Terrorblade coming through, recovery coming out for Bach, been highly effective with his Blink. BKB's up next as well for the DK. Armel's been allowed to finish up his travels and Blink, so the puck's a lot more mobile as well, and he's jumping in.
Armel, he's right in. Rogi gonna die immediately as Arfu goes for the Walrus Punch, but the orb out from Armel. It's gonna mean they can't quite catch him. He is 7-0-2 now on this puck. A classic performance from the Armel puck, of course, and he's going to be a very, very pesky kind of hero as KP does rotate down towards the bot lane, but Armel just making so much space with these rotations from SMG. Would not give them the time of the day. Right out.
Just a hit and run for Armel, buying out a ton of space. It forces so many heroes to try and chase him down. A lot of TPs onto that tier 2 tower to just cut their losses and maybe find some punishment, but they end up just sort of wasting time. So it's only the Medusa that gets to build up steadily in the jungle. Now the good news is that mid one's Ags is just about 430 gold off, so not too long till that spike is up. And that is going to be before the BKBs come out for TNC, just by a small margin. So you might have to look into using that while it's still highly effective. And they are lining up for that mid-tier 1 push right now, at least. Well, they were.
Back off. Still very intimidating to go into the side of TNC. You know how farmed Gabby is right now on this Terrorblade, and I don't think he'd really mind going for a big team fight if he needed to. Instead of SMG, they'll have a quick peek into the Roshan and see nothing. Up through that dire jungle, just trying to wrap around back into that mid lane, but who are they going to find? Bok is showing, but Armel is the much bigger target if they can catch him. Bok, he might prove to be a little bit too tanky. In fact, now he jumps in, looks for a Dragon Tail. They'll get the Hex out into the Walrus Punch. Sunray is keeping him alive, but he's been ruptured up. He cannot run, but doesn't matter. They found Arfu for the sake of the DK, and now Moon goes down as well. AP, he's going to try and run, but it looks like he is set to die and does. Umi with that Sunray, just it felt like he kept Bok around for so much longer than he should have been alive. And TNC, they just got the damage out and immediately jumped. They're into the Roshan pit.
This is just perfect coming out from TNC. There are no ways for SMG to real fail to mid one.
Straight runs in. Manly kind of play here from mid one. Have the Aghanim Scepter up as well, don't forget, so he is feeling quite confident on this hero, and surprisingly enough, just his presence alone will force back the side of TNC.
I kind of like seeing that conservative play. Armel was way far off on the map playing around that bot jungle area. They don't have Dream Coil up, Egg's not up, the Ink's up, the Soulbind's not up as well, Dragon Form isn't remotely close, so they're not quite in fighting shape on TNC's end, and they only had a little time in Metamorphosis, so it would have been really awkward to drag that fight out. SMG respawns are relatively low at this point in game. They could easily just run in and contest, and it's just some more discipline coming out from TNC, which is a good change, especially compared to Game 2, where it kind of got out of hand just in a few spots. We were seeing some lapses in judgment. This time around, they're sticking together with a specific game plan, and it is shaping up. I think they respect the fact that mid one's pretty darn big with the Ags. They're going to have to find a solution for it, though. I think they've got some good answers, especially if Armel gets to jump in and try to immediately control the back line, maybe prevent mid one from focusing on the front before anything else. But for the most part right now, mid one, with his farm he's built up, should be relatively protected, and TNC just have to always think twice when they see him show up in the map.
That they do. Hasn't really been involved in too much here mid one. Like 1 death, 3 assists. Pretty standard kind of Medusa game. We do have the go ahead, so we should be going rather soon. Back at Armel on the puck. He's still 8-0-4, not dying once. One of his signature heroes, just doing a fantastic job. Going for that Lincoln Sphere as well, because that's the one counter, right? Like, you don't want to get caught out by the Hex of Rogi. Having that Lincoln Sphere up going to make it a lot more challenging to be able to catch this puck, and even being able to throw it the way of one of your teammates just to be able to help them avoid something like the rupture. Be quite impactful as now SMG. They're going to be the ones to go into the Roshan pit. He's still roughly half HP. In mid one, he'll get started. TNC, they should be aware that this is happening. They did have vision. But how are they going to try and fight this? With the Sun Ray and the Reflection, that'll force them out of the pit. But they're going right back in. Mid one, he wants to fight. Back team up. Arfu going to get started. Umi going to be forced back. Dragon Tail is out. Moon, he went too far. Snowball, though, is going to save Arfu. Will buy some time. There's your Snow Gaze out as well. They're right in. Onto the DK. Bok is dropping quite low and will die. A great start to the fight. SMG are back in the Roshan. Meanwhile, Armel, though, does end up killing off KB, but he does die for the first time this game as TNC. They are still trying to fight this one out. Moon, he'll hold them back though, along with Arthur's mid one. He'll get the Roshan done, and now Gabby, he'll go for a Sunder, but he is really just stuck between all the side of SMG. He's going to go down. A bit of a panic Roshan attempt from TNC, and really just does not work out in their favor.
Yeah, they weren't ready for that fight.
Moon's still going. He wants Tim's on the Grimstroke. He won't be able to keep up with him though, so Tim's is going to be alright, but they'll get the mid-tier 1 tower instead.
Yeah, and that's been way overdue here for SMG. It's 24 minutes in for the mid-tier 1. A bit slow, but they find it eventually, and they have Roshan on hand. TNC, that was a really awkward fight. They had no egg, they had no dragon form, they had no metamorphosis, they only had Dream Coil to play with, And it's just not enough. Armel kind of overextending there as well is not great. He loses a massive streak out just for that kill on KP. Much bigger win for SMG, and this is the point where it starts to get pretty scary. Mid one's building into the Scotty once more. The Deuce is starting to build up. The Bloodseeker with his Solar Crest can just really run around and pick off the backlines if you're not careful. And the magic output of Moon with Akaya Sanj and the Eternal Shroud to tank up is significant. So TNC's got to be really cautious and think about when they take these fights. If their spells aren't up, chances are SMG can just run you down.
Dire are scanning.
SMG smoked up. Gonna find. It's like Bach. It's gonna break the smoke, and Roger, he's got him with the Hex out on the Walrus Punch. They lock him down, and Bach, he's got no help around him, so he's just kind of forced to die. Moon on the left rack. SMG, they're starting to look like they're in control of this game number 3.
Dire's top
Get to work into that top tier 3 tower, and TNC, they do not want a bar of SMG right now.
Yeah, they've
Radiant's
just got
bottom
played
tower
safe.
is under
They are getting a bit of a chase on Armel, but he does manage to zip away as the puck. Very slippery here to catch. There is some space here for TNC to try to trade that bot 2-2 for their top. And they are getting some good damage out. They've got the Siege Creep on hand. The Illusion spam coming out from the Terrorblade is pretty nice as well. They should at least get this sort of consolation prize on the tier 2. Maybe even get the Outpost if they want to deny some XP per minute away from SMG. SMG for their part, Aegis, they've got a lot of time in it left. About 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes left on that Aegis. So a lot of time for mid one to be protected. And going for the direct tower tree doesn't hurt them too much. It's much more painful now for TNC. They still need to hit BKBs on Bach. They need that burst damage on Armel, going for the Dagon build-up on the puck as well. And that's still a long way off until you get Dagon 5, or at least Dagon 3 here, to really burst them heroes down. It's going to be a while longer, and TNC needs more time to farm up, but now you're starting to trade farm with a really big Medusa, and that's just never a great feeling, especially after what we saw in Game 2.
Certainly not. You can see back to the drawing board, it seems like, as Gabby, he's just trying to get that Eye of Skadi up, but it's going to be a while away. Got mid one with his own Eye of Skadi coming out very, very soon, and so many issues getting into that back line and dealing with mid one. Proving to be very annoying with that Stone Gaze and the Aghanim Scepter Mystic Snake. I suppose you can play the split push game here for TNC. You do still have the Puck, who's one of the better split pushers in the game. Moon, gonna run right into Gabby. They'll be able to potentially find a killer as Moon is going to try and fight this one out, but the silence there and the Dream could have locked him down. There wasn't much he could have done. The rest of TNC trying to find a few more heroes to try and pick off, but there's nobody going to be around here from SMG. Everyone backs out again. TNC, it looks like they'll accept what they get and back off, but it's not really the prize target you want, right? Like, you really want that Medusa if you can find her. Mid one's still just not giving them any openings.
He's just playing in the back, playing in the jungle, really safe. He's always got the support to watch his back as well, so it's not the target you can easily jump, but TNC has some good items. They have the BKB on Bach, and the Ags is up on Tims. So they've got the Dark Portrait. That big farmed Medusa can turn against him, and we've seen this Dark Portrait really cause issues for a lot of teams. It's almost like a Nyx with Ags, right? Like, once you have that Burrow, all the added spells you have can be obnoxious. This Illusion's just really annoying to deal with, and you're gonna have to watch yourself on SMG now when it's attacked. You might want to try to commit with Raji to take it out instead, but it still is gonna be a big factor as long as Tims finds the right target to get the portrait of.
Pushing here by Armel. SMG gonna start invading that Dire jungle again. Just trying to find out where the side of TNC are, and they're gonna find a courier for their trouble. Safu gives the Walrus Punch over to the courier of Armel. Take the outpost back as well. So of course TNC just completely unwilling to start a fight. At least 5v5 is Rogi.
bottom tower is
Trying
under
to find Armel in the puck, but able to get the Hex off. Meanwhile, mid lane, Boomy. just fine. Now Tim, he does have that ink portrait up. You actually have to commit quite a lot to just try and burst it down.
Radiant's bottom tower is under
Is that going to be a big factor, John? Like, against Medusa, it's not necessarily one of those heroes that you think about when you think of the Grimstroke ink portrait. It was rather tanky, I must say, and I suppose if it's left alone long enough, it will do a substantial amount of damage. Do you think maybe that's the key here for TNC?
Definitely, it's going to be a big factor. You're always going to have a good source of damage just flying out. Mid 1 doesn't do the most damage yet, but as he builds up on items, it's just going to work against him if he's not careful. So SMG has to be always sort of aware of where the Grimstroke's kind of positioning himself, of what he uses that Dark Portrait of. A Soulbind Dark Portrait would be really annoying. So look at that, Tim's just microing, cutting off the creep wave, preventing any push opportunities, clearing out the creep wave by himself. It's fun.
Beautiful.
Great hero.
Looks balanced. Very balanced. TNC. Hook up, Arfu gonna run right into him, just breaking the smoke, but Armel gonna move forward with a nice stream call, catching out Moon. Now, are they gonna go after the left track? They'll try to focus in onto mid 1, but mid 1, he's gonna be just fine. Instead, they'll commit the egg, they'll continue the fight onto Arfu. See, we'll go down the tusk, but now the buyback's there. Arfu, he wants to come back in and try and stop this team fight again as mid 1. He'll go onto Bok, they'll find the Dragon Knight, and they'll take down the DK. So Armel, he's back in on the backside. He does kill off the Lash. Arfu, aim down Tim's. Gabby, we're trying to get to work, but the X is out. They've got the Earthquake as well, and they might just have enough control to take down this TB, or do they? He still has the Sunder. He'll get it off. He'll turn back around. It'll be a tieback on Arfu. Now mid 1. He needs to get out of there. Armel even finding Roddy in the backside. They do get the Medusa away. TNC. They just prolong the team fight long enough, and this time around, it does work out in their favor.
Position was just on point. We put the DK all up front. Mid 1's going to have to shove this wave back by himself, which he can do. It's a Medusa. Can really split shot quite nicely, and still really annoying to deal with for most of these heroes. But you're seeing the conditions come out for TNC. They're allowed to sustain with Boomy. As long as his position is good for the Sunray, it's very hard to burst down these heroes. Even with that Scotty up on mid 1, it's just a pain to still deal with all that heal coming through from the Phoenix. And the damage output of Gabby is just greater than Medusa right now with the itemization. Like, Scotty's up, Dragonlance and BKB, but he's got the Crystallis, he's got the SNY for faster attack speed as well. Once you have the full Daedalus up on Gabby, as long as he's got Metamorphosis to play with, the Deuce is not going to feel great up front, and mid 1's actually going for the MKB in sort of expectations of the Butterfly for Gabby, but he's just not even bothering. So that MKB, the attack speed will be nice, but your True Strike's not going to matter because you're kind of building a counter pick for an item that's not even coming out on this Terrorblade anyway.
Well, I'm also concerned about what you pointed out earlier, John. The more damage items mid 1 gets, the more that ink portrait's going to do. With that MKB up, it's going to be a lot more painful for SMG to try and deal with that ink portrait coming out from Tim's. A little bit concerned here for SMG as the game does go on. A 5k net worth lead now for TNC Predator. It's still a rather close game between the two and could go any way. Feels like this game is kind of be banking on the next Roshan, which is up, by the way. SMG already kind of posturing around it, getting the vision of that Roshan. So important for both teams to try and secure that second Roshan with the Aegis piece and shards, and the mid 1, he's already getting started. An ink portrait though, gonna scout it out. You've also got that Daedalus now onto Gabby. SMG, play it safe, they'll back out a bit.
Yeah, it's a good call. They don't really have the best vision to take the Roche right now. No forward wards the spot where TNC is. And TNC, well, they're under a smoke right now. They could look to play into that high ground here.
Will mid 1. He does not want to be caught like this with the Sunray and the Dragon Tail right on top. Still, he got the Stone Gaze off in time, so he can try to back off, and now the Soulbind locking him down. And look at the damage output.
Oh
Gabby just rips him to shreds. Onto the Bloodseeker KP, he's gone. Armel's got the backside. He'll kill off Rogi, and now Moon. He's going to try and run, but he has been left all by himself. They'll get him. Oh, what kind of damage was that from Gabby?
Daedalus, man. It's the itemization compared to Dedusa. Dedusa going for that MKB, it's just not enough damage, and it's not any more durability as well for Dedusa to stand and fight. It's just not panning out, and they have to put that Dedusa up front as well. It's their tankiest hero. It's the one that can take all the hits. You don't really want your Bloodseeker up front. And that just puts you at massive risk. They managed to get the initiation they want. I think they kind of focused on Armel on the low ground, but they didn't expect everyone else to swing in from that southern ramp, and it just kind of cost them. High ground under siege, Aegis cheese, 3 ag shard up. It's really scary to fight into this. They don't even have the stone gaze just yet, although it should be up by the time the respawn's there. But these objectives will not hold for too long. They won't get mega creeps up, as the tier 2 top is still standing. But 2 lanes of racks down, it's going to be a bit more annoying for SMG to keep these waves shoved out.
Rax is down now for SMG as the second does get taken by Gabby as we speak. Icarus Dive gonna find out after. Dream Coil's there. They want to just take the Tusk out of the team fight immediately. And they do break the coil. The Ingswell right behind by Bok. Take him out. Tafu down with that buyback again. TNC. Secondary Rax, Gabby. Has the Aegis, but there's your Soulbind out. In fact, they might just try and turn around and fight this. Rogi's already gone down. Now the Sun around mid one.
Oh no.
He's dead without buyback.
Oh boy.
Oh, it's a disaster here, John.
This is going to be really hard.
They're going under the tier 4s now. Rodgy, he's trying to get something done with the finger out. They're going after Armel, but he is still alive. He'll get the phase shift off with the ult down the low ground of Moon. He will secure the kill, but doesn't matter. They are getting completely wiped, and they call the GG. TNC. They just turn right back around and take game 3 off the side of SMG.
Yeah, it looked really even for a long time, but as we were talking about, it's like a coiled up spring. The moment the tension leaves, it just explodes. And it boiled down to a couple of things. The ags from the Grimstroke was really good, but the itemization coming out from mid 1 just didn't pan out. He expected the butterfly, he went for the MKB, his gambit just doesn't pay off, and TNC said it best at the end. They spammed out that voice line, patay, 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 they're all dead. SMG just kept dropping like flies.
That they did, John. A fantastic game 3 and fantastic series overall. 2-1 in the favor of TNC Predator. Of course, with that, we are going to head off to a very short break. But right after that break, we'll be back with the panel to discuss what happened in this game 3.